In this video, I'm going to share with you my chicken adobo recipe. This is by far one of my favorite dishes. I like to make mine extra saucy, and I think it's even better the next day as leftovers. Chicken adobo is one of those comfort foods that's not just delicious, but it's super easy to make. Everything is cooked in one pot. It's basically chicken that's braised in soy sauce and vinegar with a ton of garlic, and even though it's so simple, it has a bunch of flavor. My mom cooks chicken adobo every time I come home to visit, and I tweaked her recipe just a little bit to the way I like it. What makes my recipe different from hers and the others that I've seen online is that I like to make mine extra saucy. For my chicken adobo recipe, the ingredients are going to be 1.5 to 2 pounds of chicken parts. I'm using 2 thighs, 2 drumsticks, and 1 breast that I chopped into 3 pieces. You're for sure going to want to have bone-in, skin-on chicken. You can even use chicken wings, which I think come out really great as well. Another thing that's unique about my mom's recipe is that we add potatoes. You can find 1 large potato, or I'm using these 2 smaller ones. This is about 14 ounces, or almost a pound of potatoes. I'll also use 1 large onion, 6 to 7 cloves of garlic, which I'm gonna mince. We're gonna use 1 cup of soy sauce, and you wanna make sure that that soy sauce is a light soy sauce. There are some other soy sauces out there that are darker and thicker. Those are gonna make the adobo really salty. The brand that I use is Aloha Shoyu. We'll also be using 1 cup of distilled white vinegar, a teaspoon of whole peppercorns, 2 bay leaves, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and a little bit of water that we'll use to top everything off once it's in the pot. In a large bowl, you're gonna wanna combine most of the ingredients and let it marinate for 4 to 6 hours in the refrigerator. I'm actually gonna put everything into this mason jar. I'll start with the cup of soy sauce and vinegar. Then I'm gonna add the garlic, peppercorns, and bay leaves. Last, I'm gonna add the chicken. The reason that I'm using a mason jar is because I plan to food saver vacuum seal this. What's cool about this thing is that it actually draws the air out of the chicken. You can see the little bubbles if you look close. By drawing out the air, it also forces the marinade inside the meat. This allows me to marinate the food much quicker. After it seals, I can throw this in the fridge for like an hour, and it'll be like I marinated the chicken overnight. I think a lot of people avoid buying a food saver because they think they need to use those plastic bags. I honestly use mainly mason jars, and they're reusable containers to seal most of our food. I really think the food saver will pay for itself over time because there's been so many times that we bought food in bulk and we couldn't finish it before it went bad. I really wish this video was sponsored by Food Saver, but even though it's not, I would highly recommend one. It lives on our counter and we use it daily. If you're interested in picking one up, I'll be sure to put a link in the description below so you can find one. So now that the chicken's ready to marinate, I'm gonna put this in the fridge for about an hour, and while it sits in the fridge, I'm gonna go ahead and prep the rest of our vegetables. So now that I got these peeled, I'm gonna go ahead and cut these up. I like my potatoes like big chunk pieces, so I'm gonna just make some big rustic chunky cuts. About like this. And I'm gonna throw these in water just so they sit for a little bit. The water doesn't do anything, it just keeps them from browning. For the onion, I'm just gonna do a super simple cut. I'm just gonna keep it kind of rustic. Okay, and you can see I just kind of break it up like this. Once you're ready to start cooking, you'll want to throw a large wok or Dutch oven on the stove at medium-high heat and then add some olive oil. I'm going to transfer the chicken to a large bowl because it's a little difficult to pull them out of the jar and place them in the pan neatly. Once the pan comes to temp, you'll want to take 1 piece of chicken at a time out of the marinade and shake it off a bit before you place it into the oil. Take your time with this because the goal is to brown and sear the chicken pieces. If you get too much marinade into the pan, it's gonna bubble up and steam the chicken and boil it instead of sear it. Don't overcrowd the pan. Just do a couple of pieces at a time. When you're done browning the first batch, take them out and place them back into the marinade or onto another plate. After all the chicken is seared off, you'll add a little bit more oil if you need, and then cook the onions for a couple of minutes till they're soft and translucent. Next, you're going to add the chicken and potatoes to the pot and pour all of the marinade in. Add a little water to bring it up just almost covering the chicken and vegetables. Place the lid on and let it simmer on low for 20 to 30 minutes or until the potatoes are cooked and the chicken is tender and almost falling off the bone. Once it gets to this point, I'm gonna take the cornstarch and make a slurry. I'll put 2 tablespoons into a bowl and slowly mix in a little water at a time to avoid big chunks of cornstarch. I'll add some of the adobo broth to the mix, a little at a time, until it's liquidy like this. So right now the broth is about this consistency. It's a little watery like soup. I'm gonna add the slurry mix to the broth and try to avoid pouring it directly over the chicken. As I mix it in, you can see that it almost instantly starts to thicken the broth. I'll try to incorporate this the best I can, then go ahead and place the lid back on and let it cook off the cornstarch taste for about another 8 to 10 minutes. While this is doing its thing, I'm gonna scoop some rice onto a plate. After a couple of minutes, you can take the pot off the stove and serve it up. And there it is, people, my chicken adobo recipe. Sometimes if you're looking for a little bit more nutrition, one thing that I like to add to this is some steamed broccoli, honestly. It goes great with the adobo, and it soaks up the gravy and all the flavors, and it's hella good.